May I ask you something? Have you ever felt that some beings in this world are simply too large for it, too special, too singular, that the world does not quite know what to do with them? Today's story is about exactly that. Brody, a Great Pyrenees, covered head to tail in white fur, weight 66 kilograms, standing on his hind legs 180 centimeters tall. Daily food intake 1 full kilogram of kibble. Everyone who saw him said the same thing. He looks like a small polar bear. And they were right. Large, white, and dignified. You could have believed it. But here is what most people did not know. The larger and more special a creature, the deeper the loneliness it can carry. In December 2025, Brody found himself alone. His previous owners called the shelter. We can no longer give him the attention he deserves. They were not unkind people. Perhaps it took courage to admit their own limitations honestly. But Brody could not understand any of that. He only knew that one day, the familiar warmth and scent he had known simply disappeared. Animal Concern Cumbria shared Brody's story with the world. The response was overwhelming. Hundreds of adoption applications arrived. Social media filled with his name. Everyone wanted this dog, but wanting is not the same as being ready. The Great Pyrenees has spent centuries guarding flocks from wolves and bears. High in mountain passes, he needs open space, people who understand him, and above all a family who will be truly present. Being large does not mean you can live anywhere. Looking strong does not mean you are fine alone. The most imposing presence is sometimes the one that needs the most tender care. Lauren Pickthall, the shelter's rehoming manager, read every application carefully, and then her hands stopped at one in particular. Steve White, age 59. Helen White, age 63. A couple in St. Austell, Cornwall, with half an acre of garden and years of experience with this very breed. Their dog Wilson, 13 years together, had passed away just 3 months before. Lauren read the application again. This grief is real. This gap is real. And this readiness is real. To love again, after losing someone dear to you. You know how difficult that is. Steve and Helen found that courage. And Brody was still waiting. These two stories were about to meet. Have you ever felt that something will not work out, and yet you must try anyway? That your heart moves before your reason catches up? That was Steve and Helen. When they first heard about Brody, they were honest with themselves. We probably have no chance. A dog this famous, with hundreds of people wanting him. A quiet couple from Cornwall, approaching their 60s. How could they compete? Even so, Helen made a call. She reached out to a friend in the Pyrenean Mountain Dog Club of Great Britain. She asked whether any rescue dogs needed a new home. Her friend said, "There is one called Brody." When Helen heard that name, something shifted in her chest. The dog from the news. The one everyone called a polar bear. They submitted their application, not knowing if it would come to anything. 2 weeks passed. An email arrived from the shelter. "We would like to arrange a video call to see your home." When they opened that email, their hearts must have quickened. A heart in its 50s, another in its 60s, beating like they were young again. After the video call, the shelter said, "We are happy for you to consider adopting him." January 1, 2026. The first morning of the new year. They got in the car. Destination Cumbria. Distance one way 440 miles. On the very first day of the year, they drove that distance to meet a dog. Some might say, 440 miles, just for a dog. I would not put it that way. For Steve and Helen, this was not simply a journey to collect a pet. It was a journey back toward warmth. Toward the life that Wilson had left quiet. 13 years of morning walks. The familiar weight at their feet each evening. The soft sound of breathing in the night. All of that had gone in October. This was a journey toward living again. When they arrived, Brody appeared. 66 kilograms of white fur. Came straight toward them. Helen described it simply. The first time we met him at the shelter. He was all over us. He is just so friendly. Dogs do not lie. If they do not like you, they turn away. If they are afraid, they hide. If something is wrong, they bark. But Brody came running toward them. Animal behaviorists tell us that dogs detect human emotion through scent. The scent of grief, of longing, of the quiet hope buried beneath both. Brody sensed it. What was coming from these two people? This is it, he must have felt. I have found them. They spent 2 days together. They walked the fells of Wasdale in Cumbria. In the cold air of the new year. A great white dog and two people. Walked side by side in quiet. Just walking. Listening to his steps. Feeling his warmth. This feeling. This is what it felt like with Wilson. And Brody felt it too. That these hands were warm. That this was right. January 3rd. They signed the papers. Brody was now part of the White family. Steve said. He was more than worth it. 440 miles was nothing. To say it was nothing means it was everything. They drove 440 miles home. Toward the house. Toward his real home. What is a home? It is not an address. It is not a building. It is the place where you feel you are allowed to be. Where someone receives you, even when you make a mess. That is home. The day they arrived in Cornwall. Brody jumped from the car. And ran straight into the garden. Half an acre of open space. Then, moments later, splash. He launched himself into the duck pond. In the corner of the garden. 66 kilograms of white fur. Emerged covered in green weeds. When Steve and Helen saw that, I imagine they laughed for a long time. Do you know how precious that laughter is? Medically speaking, laughter lowers cortisol, the stress hormone, and raises endorphins, but you do not need to know that to understand it. The days when we laughed with someone we love are the days we remember most clearly. Two people who had spent that winter without Wilson found their laughter again in front of this enormous, wonderful dog. That alone was enough. 3 weeks on, Brody has settled completely into life in Cornwall. There are chickens in the garden, a Canadian goose, a rabbit. He is gentle with all of them. The instinct that guided his ancestors across mountain passes for centuries quietly lives on in this small garden in Cornwall. The instinct to protect, the instinct to belong, that does not disappear when the landscape changes. Brody knows what he loves. He loves the beach, running on the sand, chasing a tennis ball, paddling in streams, but he will not go near the sea because he cannot drink it. He hates the rain, no matter how much you call him, no matter how much you coax. If it is raining, he stands in the doorway and will not move. What he does not like, he does not like. And when you scratch the back of his neck, he looks as though he owns the world. When he licks a finished tub of clotted cream, his eyes close halfway. I find something quietly profound in this. A 66-kilogram dog who will not budge in the rain. I would not call that stubbornness. Knowing clearly what you love and what you do not, and being honest about it. That is something many of us slowly lose as the years pass. For Steve and Helen, Brody is not simply a new dog. The space that Wilson left after 13 years together does not disappear. It cannot be replaced. But beside that space, new warmth has grown. A new love does not erase the love that came before. The love that came before opens a door through which new love enters. In the warm place Wilson made, Brody has quietly sat down. Lauren said, safe to say, he is starting the year exactly where he belongs. His place. We all have a place somewhere. Sometimes it takes a long time to find it. It took Brody 6 years. He was loved and then let go. wanted by hundreds, and entrusted to just two. Attention is not love. Popularity is not happiness. Being beside one person, or two, who truly understand you, that is everything. Right now, Brody is probably running along a beach in Cornwall. His great white body, moving across the sand. Steve is behind him. Helen is beside him. The two people who drove 700 kilometers to bring him home. Does Brody know that distance? Probably not. But he knows that this is home, that this is his place, that these hands are warm. That is enough. If today's story brought someone to mind, someone you once walked beside, or someone still close to you now, take a moment today to feel that warmth a little more deeply, because what warms us is always closer than we think.